Hi everyone, welcome to SoundBlab. This is part 3 of the soundbar and subwoofer build with Bluetooth, where I will talk a bit about the build and do a sound test at the end of the video, so stay tuned. The soundbar was designed to fit the size of my LED screen. It is roughly 1230 millimeters long and about 100 millimeters high to fit the 3-inch drivers and the tweeter. I wanted it to look fairly plain and not to stand out, so the finishes are all black and it blends in well with my setup. The enclosures are made of 12mm MDF. It is easy to work with and easy to finish. Just before I applied the final coat of paint, I used the sanding sealer to seal the MDF. This is a great trick to get a really smooth finish on MDF. It's applied, left to dry for an hour or so, and then sanded with a fine sandpaper around 320 grit. I usually repeat this 2 or 3 times until all the edges on the MDF are sealed and smooth. You can see a purchase link to sanding sealer in the description. Each driver comes with its own teal small parameters from the manufacturer. This will help you determine the optimal enclosure types and volumes for the driver. In my case, I measure the TS parameters myself using the Dayton Audio DATS computer-based audio test system. From this, I use a free application called WinISD to determine the enclosure type and the volume. And then I use SketchUp to design the enclosures according to my modeled findings. I will put links to all of these in the description below. For the soundbar, I chose two Visiton FR8-4 3-inch drivers connected in series to achieve an 8 ohm load for each of the left and right channels. Because these drivers provide a fairly full range sound on their own, I only needed a very small tweeter to lift the top end of the frequency spectrum. For that I chose the Tangband 137061S half-inch silk dome tweeter. Someone asked in the comments about not using shielded speakers for the soundbar. If you are still using an old CRT based TV, I would certainly not recommend using the soundbar with that. But with an LED screen that functions in a completely different manner, it will not be affected by unshielded drivers, as you can see in this clip here. I'm using it with my LED screen and it works perfectly fine without any problems. For the subwoofer, I selected two 5-inch Tangband W5 5¼ inch drivers that pack a great punch for their size and are relatively inexpensive. These can be wired in series to provide an 8 ohm load or in parallel to provide a 2 ohm load. The TPA 3116 board, amplifier board I'm using is specified to be able to handle 2 ohm load on the subwoofer channel. My subwoofer drivers are connected in parallel for the 2 ohm load to give it a higher output power. And so far, after being used for a couple of weeks, I have had no problems with the amp not being able to handle it. I've now used this particular version of this Bluetooth amp in many projects, and I'm still very impressed with its quality and durability. You will find a purchase link in the description below. All the drivers were measured using Room Equalizing Wizard and the Mini DSP U-Mic, and I used XM to model the crossover for the soundbar drivers. The crossover was a bit more complex than I would have liked, with 2 extra components for baffle step correction, but it was needed. The crossover follows a typical second order low pass filter on the two 3-inch drivers in series, and a third order high pass filter on the tweeter with an L pad to bring down the level of the tweeter in line with the two 3-inch drivers. The crossover frequency is around 10,000 Hz. In the listening test, you should notice that the tweeter level is a bit bright, but that can easily be solved by adjusting the values of one of the resistors on the L pad. In conclusion, I know that for some of you, you might not have a clue as to what I'm talking about with much that I've said in regarding the driver specifications, measurements and crossover design, but at some point I'm hoping to go into more detail regarding this in a build. I've learned everything I know by studying books on speaker design and just by googling certain topics. There are also some channels on YouTube that go into more detail in this regard, such as Impulse Audio and 123 Toyd. So be sure to visit their channels. I'll put links in the description. Right now I do not have build plans available for this build and will only draw them up if I get some time to do so. It might only be towards the end of this year, so if you can't wait, please hold thumbs that I'll get some time somewhere to do that. In the meantime, please make sure to subscribe to my channel by clicking below, so keeping up to date with what I am working on. You can also find me on Instagram, where I occasionally post glimpses of the projects that I'm working on and that will be coming up in the future on my channel. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up down below. But without further ado, let's go over to the sound test.
My head is heavy, let me lay it down into your lap, I would love to drown. I need that story I used to hear to run down into and disappear. I won't lie down and I won't lie down, and I can't do this without you. I won't lie down and I won't lie down, and I can't do this without your stories. They come from the heart, glue me together and tear me apart. Your